welcome. Welcome everybody who's tuned in to this program, entrepreneurs, small business leaders, even anybody thinking about starting a business. And here beside me is Caroline McDonough, and on behalf of the local enterprise office. And Caroline, you're going to introduce what we're going to cover.
Good morning, everybody viewing. Thanks a million for joining us here at Leo Galway, as we are one of the 12 spotlight events for Local Enterprise Week 2022. And this morning we're going to be talking about the Agile Fund, which gives rapid access to small companies to develop new products, new technologies, and also to help companies respond quicker to new market opportunities. The fund can offer funding of up to 50% to a spend of up to €300,000. The important thing to note for the Agile Innovation Grant is that it supports your time and your staff working on the new projects. So it actually de-risks the application of your time and resources developing the new projects, the new technologies. So in a sense, it is a no-brainer. This morning you were going to be meeting with two of our Leo Galway clients, Brenda McGrath from Crush Tech in Milltown, County Galway, and James Wall from 3D Technologies based in the Galway Technology Centre in Galway City. And they're going to talk to you about how receiving the Agile Fund helped them diversify and scale their businesses. You will also meet with Gillian Slattery from Enterprise Ireland, who will help demystify the application process. And we will also be having a question and answer session around midday. So if you could please send your questions to #AgileAmbition, and also follow us on the handle @LeoGalway. Tag us in your posts, please. And I hope you have a great morning. Take lots of learnings, of which I'm sure you will. And on that note, I'll hand you back to Sean.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Right, I want to tell you a little bit about my experience and about innovation. So I'm going to stand up and walk around a little bit, because this is not an activity you do sitting down. And I really want to kind of go and communicate what is innovation. First of all, did you know in Ireland we are leading innovation, because a group of us in Ireland have been involved in the development of the global guide standard on innovation. And what that means is it's a common language and a common high-level practice process on how to drive innovation within a business as well. And the fundamental first thing we did was to define what is innovation. And innovation, the explanation now that's globally accepted, driven out of the Irish team with an international team as well, it is a new or changed entity, and its realization or redistribution of value. Now let me explain that, because it really is important. New or changed. So you don't always have to be novel and inventive. So you could change something, you could adapt it for a marketplace to make it more significantly useful for people or for different situations as well. An entity can be a service, a product, a combination of a service and a product. It could be a process, or it could be an element of your business model that you change in order to deliver significantly better outcomes for your target customer. Realization of value, we all want that. Sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's for the benefit of the planet and the environment. It can be non-profit making. And redistribution of value, that's an interesting one, because that means with digitization, we can have a direct communication with our end consumer, our end customer, and maybe change the supply chain that has been traditionally there over the last number of years. So innovation is this new or changed entity, and the realization and redistribution of value. And we've been part of developing that as well. One example very, very quickly, a company, a startup, Neil Austin, a farmer from Meath, had a problem staying up all night long waiting for the cows to calf. So he developed the concept for the moo call, and we worked with him to develop the product, the support service, and the business model. And they all come together, and that's the secret of what innovation does. It identifies which problems are worth solving, and then create the right solution and to commercialize it in the right way. And key for us very much in that is the fact that now Moocall have a direct digital contact with 200,000 farmers globally who use their services. And the big issue around that is it's not just selling a product. They have now a business model where they can sell a range of other services that would be of value to those farmers, and it's a global customer base as well. And that's where all of this comes together to make the magic work. For the last 10 years, actually interesting enough, for the last 10 years working in Galway, I've been working with BioInnovate out of NUIG. And some of you may know, some of you may not know, it is the most successful startup of medtech companies outside of the US. And that is happening right here in Galway. And it's that kind of process, that practical process, that we want to share a little bit of insights around today. And there's some key points coming out of that I want to share now as kind of a key guidance. And when I introduce our guests, I'll be interrogating them politely around how they got to the successful outcomes they have achieved, as well as the resources and the funding needed to achieve it. But the one key thing for me is that innovation, or starting any kind of a business, you need energy. You need to be passionate about what you're doing and why you're doing it. So it's even better if you've got some expertise or skill in the area so that you have that passion, that interest, that drive, and that persistence in following through, because it is not an easy journey. Number 2, identify some current under or unmet needs. So trip across something that you say, oh, I don't have that solution in the current product I'm selling or that I'm aware of that's in the marketplace as well. Or maybe there's an emerging trend. And we have a lot of those off the back of the pandemic and digitization. Things are dramatically changing. So have you identified any current under or unmet need with the current solutions in the marketplace? And then I'm looking for evidence behind that. What's the evidence behind this need that suggests it might be worth solving? And that can be around discovering who is involved, who's directly involved in this product, whether it's using it, paying for it, distributing it, or servicing or supporting it. Then, how many people have this potential unmet need, and in what markets? So again, we're looking for the scale of the opportunity, because if it's not big enough, it mightn't be worth all the effort in going after. So we got to understand and validate the scale of the opportunity. And also, is it currently satisfied or unsatisfied? So who are the competitors? How well are they satisfying that particular unmet need as well? And key to all of this is the solution of high value. Is it important enough and of high value to them that they will pay for your new iteration of the product or of the service or the combination of both? That's really important. And that's what I call evidence-based needs. And once we've established that, then we can step into a solution mode. We can start thinking about a solution. We can start thinking about then prototyping that solution. But fundamentally, what we do is what I call needs-based innovation. So understanding what is the need, researching it, establishing the evidence behind it from a point of view of the opportunity, the scale of the opportunity, and understanding the root cause of what that problem is or that issue is as well. And we're going to hear that in our case stories today from that point of view. So, just going on a little bit more from my point of view, I want to kind of indicate some things I've learned. Things I've learned that I feel are critical. You've got to have the ability to filter your own needs. And what I mean by that is to be able to evaluate and say, this need is not going to deliver on my own goals and my own objectives for my business, number one. Now, in my own business, I always bring in an outside consultant to help me do that. So I actually will bring in a business consultant or advisor or mentor to actually help me to do that, because the danger is self-reference and self-bias. I always want my ideas to work, and that is a key element. So you do need a third-party person to come in and be objective and work through with you to say, Sean, the evidence isn't there. Don't waste your money or your time or your energy developing something that you're going to be disappointed with the outputs on. So that's fundamental to this, that go, no go, and you need that input to help you interrogate your own needs as well. And also, the biggest danger I see, and I come across constantly, is people jump into designing and building solutions without stopping and identifying the right level of evidence to support the need. And that really is critical. And that's where we'll come to the next step that really is fundamental, and today is all about funding and finding the resources. And the resources will include the finance as well as the people to realize the prototyping, bring it to the next stage of testing it and doing iterations in your marketplace. So there is a very clear pathway on how you manage innovation, how you manage all of the uncertainties, and key part of today is to address some of those financial needs that will be critical once you have validated what need you are addressing in the marketplace itself. So I would like to pull back and introduce some of our guests you're going to meet today. Caroline, you've mentioned some of them, and we've got Brendan here on the wings who's going to join us, and we have James Wall and Gillian will be online to join us as we work through this session as well. And again, just to support, any questions you have at any point, just send them in and we'll pick them up and we'll address them as we go through this as well. So, Brendan, I would like to invite you to... Brendan, welcome, and thank you for taking the time and go to share some of your insights and experience with us today. So tell us a little bit about your company, how it started, and where it is today.
Well, CrushTech is a company producing recycling equipment, primarily crushers, mobile crushers. It's a diversification from our existing business, and it's something we wanted to develop and to grow into. And hence where we went with the Agile innovation program in order to develop a complete brand new product where we've seen a gap in the market. So we're still at the early stage of development. We have built our prototypes and we're now starting early stage production of models.
Okay, and talk me through that gap in the market. Did you fall into it? Did you jump it? How did you trip across it? Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah,
how do you find these gaps? That's what I want to know.
I guess we were looking for ways to grow our business, and the current business we were in, we could see that it was capped quite small globally. So we had bought significant assets where we had good factory space, and we thought, well, how can we utilize those assets better? So I started investigating different markets, and I kind of fell back into where I first started my career, which was I was selling construction equipment in the UK. Okay. And the more I looked into the market for crushing and screening, I could see how the market had developed and evolved over the last 20 to 30 years. From where I started, where we were initially selling to quarries, to now where a lot of companies were selling and developing into, which was the recycling industry. So I started investigating a lot more into the recycling industry and discovered that, you know, worldwide there's a massive push from all governments to recycle and reuse material, and construction and demolition waste was making up about 70% of global waste that was being shoved into landfill and wasted, really, not utilized.
Okay, I'm following this. You spotted an emerging trend to do with regulation and sustainability, which is absolutely brilliant. You were looking at key markets, so you could see there was a number of people who had this same need or the same challenge as well. But what's different about your solution?
So our solution, what we looked at was to, obviously there are competitors in this market already, and the market has grown and evolved. So the suppliers into this particular market typically would build much larger pieces of equipment to handle bigger tonnages. What we could see is that the smaller contractor, the smaller demolition contractor, building contractor, he basically was excluded from this particular market, where if he was demolishing a few houses, 2-3 houses or something like that, typically he had to truck that material away to a much larger site where it could be then recycled and then trucked back to site and reused. So we could see that there's a lot of additional costs involved for the smaller operator. and particularly in cities as well, where it's impossible to get the bigger equipment into cities. So we thought, well, there's a gap in the market here for a smaller, compact machine that's mobile, very easy to transport to site, do a small job, and off-site again, and do it cost-effectively and competitively.
Interesting. So you spotted a niche. So you spotted the trend, you wanted growth, and you needed something to help you kind of get that new growth into the business. So you spotted this emerging trend, you've got a niche, and okay, where you go. What was any blockages, anything hindering you doing it? It sounds great.
Well, it's expensive to go and develop prototypes and to test the theory and prove that you can build a machine for this particular market that would be accepted by customers. So it's a huge gamble to go straight into something and build a crushing machine where you're not. That's not your background,
yep.
And to establish yourself in this particular market. So yes, I mean, it's putting that amount of capital into building a prototype, going out there into the market and saying, hey, I'm here, we've got a machine for you that can do the job. And that's where we relied and fell back on the likes of the Agile innovation, where we could get support to do the R&D, to develop the product, without throwing 100% of our own capital into it. So it was shared risk in order to get that stepping stone. So
it's managing the risk involved in that. And before we get into the Agile and understanding a little bit more how it works is, what markets were you targeting? What markets did you see that be the first to maybe adapt your solution or would be to buy your solution? Was that in Europe? Where was that market?
Primarily the focus is on Europe, closer to our door to start off with. I mean, we see it as a global market, but essentially the UK, France, Germany, your developed Western economies where there's a lot of cities, there's a lot of demolition and recycling going on, rebuilding. That type of market is where we've seen the opportunity.
Brilliant. So how did you hear about Agile?
We had contacts with Enterprise Ireland, and we spoke to Gillian, and we discussed, we got this idea, a project, and she was saying, well, this kind of could fit in with Agile, so we involved a consultant then as well to discuss and go through and develop the business plan and see where we fitted. So between the consultant and Gillian, we felt that Agile fitted where we were going. And
I presume Gillian and the consultant were acting as your business advisors or mentors to a degree?
Yes, certainly. It's like what you said earlier. It's great having the idea and the belief in your own idea, but it's also very good to have people challenging you and sort of saying, well, what's your market research and where are you getting that information from, and checking your market research. So yes, definitely.
And the actual process of applying for it, okay, you used a consultant. Was it onerous? Did you have to produce a lot of documentation? Or how easy was it to get access to this kind of funding?
Yeah, we found it very, very straightforward and relatively easy. And doing the business plan, you have your ducks lined up, for want of a better word. So you have an idea where you can sell your cash flows and that sort of thing. So no, we found it very straightforward and very fast and efficient.
Yeah. And what are you using the funding for? Do you mind sharing that with us? What is it being used? Is it resources? Is it materials? Is it building a prototype? Or is it a combination of all of those?
It was primarily to build a prototype and test the product that we plan to develop and sell into the marketplace, yes.
Okay. Gillian, can I pull Gillian back into the loop?
Sure.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Gillian, you were involved in this. Can you walk us through from your perspective? Invited in, he had an evidence-based needs, and it has all of those insights that I love to hear about. So you come in and wearing the hat of a business advisor, what did you find? What did you find was good about it, or where was the weaknesses?
I suppose, just to put it into context, Sean, the fund itself is as Brendan has explained, it's really around the development of a new or substantially improved that are already in existence, or services or processes. So that's really the essence of the fund. So the project cost would be less than about 300,000 in expenditure, and then you can get a grant of up to 50% for that. So it's really for existing businesses that are looking at changing production lines. So when Brendan contacted us first, within the process itself, an expression of interest would need to go back to Enterprise Ireland to see, look, is what Brendan's trying to do, that piece of activity, does that qualify for R&D Agile support? So once we got the go-ahead on that, we got out the application form, and a lot of the application form is really what was in Brendan's business plan anyway. So it's just answering some of those questions. The next piece then, once that's, I suppose, you know, he's putting that together, a tech assessor is assigned from Enterprise Ireland, and that technology assessment person really would have good knowledge on the product that, you know, I suppose, or the service or the process that you're trying to develop. So they would go out to the business and spend a piece of time with the business owners and go through what this product should look like. So it's about a half-day session. It can be good for companies because I suppose the tech assessor would have a good knowledge of what's already in existence on the marketplace and, you know, what's already out there in global economies. So they would be able to give good feedback as well to the CEO or to the MDs, just what's required around the Agile piece. I had to put together my report then based on Brendan's application form and the tech assessor's report. It's all submitted to the Leo. It goes in front of the Leo EVAC, and then it's sent to R&D, the R&D committee in EI for final ratification. So it does take a piece of time. There's a couple of visits, site visits, conversations with Leo advisors and with Enterprise Ireland as well. So it's you know, what the advice I'd give to companies is engage with the Leo pretty much straight away if you're thinking of doing this, and if you think what you're doing within your business would qualify for this particular assistance.
How long did it take? Can you give me a timeline from contacting?
I think it was around about 3 to 4 months, actually, all told.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And what I'm wondering, Gillian, sorry, I have to ask this question. Can you go back twice? Can you, if you only look for, can you look for partial for 50 or 100K, and then look for the rest to top up? How flexible is the funding?
The funding is pretty flexible, so I think it's a lot of that would be based on the tech assessor's report. So they'd look at the expenditure that would be going out on the various areas around the actual business plan itself for the application. And, you know, once that's in place, that they would, you know, then just kind of say, look, these are the costs that are relevant around that. Now, the types of costs within the actual application form that can be applied for go under various categories. So, for example, if you're looking to subvent new staff costs that are coming in to fulfill the needs of the project, that's eligible, and their overheads and travel and subsistence around that. You can bring in a consultant as well. There's a max of 900 per day for a consultant in there if you need to engage with them. Materials and prototype, that would be, I suppose, very relevant, and definitely was very relevant to Brendan's application, because he was building a new product from scratch, really, for a different marketplace to the one that he was already serving. So that was very, very relevant. Certification and clinical trials, those types of costs can be assumed under the application, and patent costs as well. So you could probably see quite quickly, if a company's coming up with a new product or service, that the expenditure of 300K could be used up quite quickly. And they may need to come back for another pot of money. So there may be other funds that would be relevant outside of R&D Agile that you could discuss with your local enterprise office, for example.
And that's where you would come into play as well. So you could, because you know Brendan and you know the company, he could go back to you and say, what's the next funding step for me? Because he will presumably successfully then introduce a production line and bring this to scale up for the marketplace.
Absolutely. And look, this offer, I suppose, is quite niche because it is for companies that are already established and they're EBITDA positive. So it's for companies that are already trading, they're quite successful. You know, so R&D mightn't suit everybody. And, you know, but then again, you could be a company that is doing R&D, you know, that you could be eligible for this product and you don't even know. So the advice really is get in touch with the Leo and just see what's on offer for you.
Gillian, I must add, because down in your base in Shannon, one of the team members who've been working with me on the innovation, the ISO Global Guide Standard, Joe Doyle, he's a global player on intellectual property. So if you haven't met him yet, Brendan, absolutely a mine of information of how to do that, how to protect your product, particularly when you're exporting, and you'll want to have as much of a competitive advantage as you want from that point of view. That's brilliant, Gillian, that's great. Brendan, I have to ask you, okay, you got the money. Where did the matching funding come from? Do you mind sharing that with us, or how easy was that to get hold of in today's marketplace?
In today's marketplace, indeed. We went for additional bank funding to support the application, essentially. So we approached our bank and explained the same thing. We went through the process of the business plan and explained we were going for Leo, for the Agile, and they supported the funding to build the project.
Was it one dependent on the other, do you think? Did it help that the state was investing in you
absolutely,
as well?
yeah, absolutely.
And they had done their due diligence on your plan and everything?
Exactly.
So it does help in getting that kind of, the other matching fund from whatever, the banks or even from investors.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, interesting. I think actually it's time you saw what Brendan actually does. So we have a great video about his business and about what he does, just to put this in context. And again, any questions, email or tweet them into us as well, because we've got Brendan here and we'll be doing another case story in a few minutes.
My name is Brendan McGrath. I'm the Managing Director of Crush Tech. Crush Tech as a business is a company designing and developing crushing, screening, recycling equipment for the construction and demolition waste recycling market. A number of years ago I was working in the UK in the crushing and screening area and construction equipment businesses, and in the last few years we were looking at something else to diversify and grow into, and we can see that at a European level there's a huge push to recycle and reuse materials. Consequently, we could see a gap in the market for compact crushing and recycling equipment. The legacy products at the moment would be quite large, high production machinery, and the issue in a lot of city sites is that access is an issue, the size of the machinery is an issue, and also the cost of the machinery to go in and do a small job. It's just not viable. So our concept was to try and develop machinery that's smaller, compact, yet decent production levels so that you could get it into site. That's where we feel we can come into that sector of the market, where we can go on site, do a small job, 3, 4, 5 days, and it's easy got in, easy got out, and easy to do the job. We have now sold some units in the UK and further into Eastern Europe. All across Europe we see as our growth potential market, and we are at a stage now where we are building and shipping, and we're trying to build a distribution network across Europe to sell and service the product as well. The huge benefit of what we're trying to do is to prevent valuable materials, construction, demolition, waste material, your bricks, your blocks, your concrete, from going to landfill. So when buildings are demolished, it seems crazy not to be able to recycle and reuse this material, where now they can crush this material cost effectively as well on site and reuse that material for sub-base and roads and things like that. The Agile Innovation Grant from the local enterprise office was a huge benefit for us to help us over the huge funding that was needed to develop a big product like this. The Leo was very supportive in terms of pushing it through for us, to give us that impetus to go ahead and drive on with the development. It was a very fast, efficient and easy process in actual fact, because they had a very quick understanding of where we were coming from, what we were trying to do. The sort of mindset you need for developing a new product or a new niche in a market is one where you've got to have a good understanding of your own market. So you have to have a lot of strength in your own belief and your own character in order to drive it through. Being mindful of the pitfalls with it as well, but there's always an element of risk in any development of new product. But if you have that inner believing in yourself, and then it takes that sort of inner strength to drive on and push on with it and take the chance.
I think that gives you a real insight into what Brendan does, what his business, his company and his team does as well. And what struck me about that is the importance, the robustness of that kind of equipment, and the expectations of his customers. They expect things to work first thing in the morning and consistently work as well. And you mentioned, Brendan, a little bit about managing the risks. You mentioned also that word, well, I threw it out, and you kind of that confidence in particularly bringing a new product to market. And we got a great insight from Gillian about how this Agile funding can be used for many things, but fundamentally it's been used in your case around the building of a prototype to test the marketplace as well. Can you give me a little bit of an insight into how this funding has made the difference for you? What is the difference it's made to you? I'm sure you would have done this anyway. I'll be honest with you, I can sense from you, but what has the funding done and what's the next steps after this funding?
Well, yes, we would have done it anyway, but it probably would have taken us a lot longer time to do that. The funding gave us the confidence to push on a lot faster and to push on and to set very aggressive targets to develop the product, to get it to market. And to go to the next stage after prototype testing to go into production. So it really gave us that confidence to take the leap.
And what's next? What's your next step? So is the prototype out there being tested?
The prototype testing is completed.
Okay.
So we've done a lot of testing in different applications, both here in Ireland and in the UK. Very, very happy with the way the prototype worked. We learned a lot from the prototype development, so we made a lot of changes to
Will you have to build another iteration, or were you able to change that prototype?
No, we built another iteration.
Did you? Okay.
We did. So we changed a lot of features on the machine based on feedback that we got from the prototype testing from different customers. So the second iteration we're extremely happy with, and we've actually started selling. So we have the first units now sold in the UK and in Central Europe. So we're at the stage now where we're trying to get set up for streamlined production. So basically,
are you going to be talking about batch production of 10, 20 off, or how are you scaling that? Because that's not easy either, and that's going to need another level of funding.
It is, yes. No, it's a one-by-one sort of approach to the production because of the sheer cost of building each unit. But our initial strategy was to outsource a lot of the fabrication of the chassis and various other component parts. But we're struggling with that in the current climate because the market is very tight for labour and for production facilities. So what we're finding is that we now have to set up internally to do more of the production in-house. So we're at that stage now where we're setting up our own fabrication facilities inside, painting, shop blasting, various things like that, so we can have entire control of the production process and do that in-house and start to do initially one machine per month, starting from about June this year, and thereafter see how we develop. Okay,
excellent to know, and I can understand that because the quality, the robustness, the reliability, and your reputation as a brand is actually on test with every machine you produce.
It is.
So it is really critical from that point of view. Brendan, thank you very much. I'm going to actually move us on to another case story from James Wall, and James is going to join us now. And welcome, James. Welcome, James, and James Wall. James, you introduce yourself. Tell me a little about what you do. It kind of sounds exciting. It sounds very dynamic, very different from what we heard from Brendan. So off you go. Tell me about your story.
Okay, so I'm the Managing Director of 3D Technology. What we do is we supply a range of 3D printers into the market here in Ireland and Northern Ireland. We also have a division that looks at anatomical modelling, so patient-specific anatomical modelling. And where the Agile Innovation Fund has come in is we've decided to start manufacturing our own grown 3D printer.
Oh, okay, interesting. And where did this all come from? How did you get interested in 3D printing?
So I was working for a company, a kind of a service provider company, who were dealing with lots of multinational companies around Ireland and Europe, and primarily medical device companies. And I had kind of identified a need by speaking to these customers that were mine at the time, that they were interested in 3D printing, and some of them had it, some of them didn't have it, but were interested in it. Those that had it, it wasn't been serviced in Ireland, it was been serviced from abroad, and I suppose their experiences were patchy at best. So that kind of gave me an idea that maybe it would be good to have a company in Ireland that was going to service that need, provide equipment, and look after the equipment for those customers.
So you had identified an under or an unmet need, as we were talking earlier, with in the marketplace with some of these key customers, and that's what prompted you to start your own business.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you do that? How did you get credibility? You don't make 3D printers.
No, I did go to Leo initially, and I met in Galway. I met Breda and some of the team there, and they kind of put together for me a roadmap of the funding. At the time, I couldn't get bank funding, so I used microfinance, I think it was called.
Oh, yes.
And they helped me along the way. In order to become a partner of a large manufacturer of 3D printers, you needed to buy your own equipment. So I needed a loan to buy that equipment in order just to get started on the business. That was even before we had customers. So yeah, I mean, the local enterprise office helped me get to that stage, went through business plans with me, figured out how we would go, what trade shows I'd go to, where we target, and so on.
So you started, you imported, you're an agency,
Yep.
you set up a showroom, I believe,
Yep.
and then you had a whole range of 3D printers. So what happened that sparked, that you identified an opportunity? Where did that opportunity come from? Where did you see it?
So we were getting requests from customers.
Okay.
So what they were doing was they were cherry picking all the pieces of the 3D printers that we sold that they liked, and asked for a printer that had all of their list of wants. And we have some good engineers working in the company now, and we came up with the idea maybe we could try build a small prototype for one customer. And when that was successful, we said maybe we could scale that to a much larger machine. And that's where the idea developed from.
I can see you got curiosity, you got opportunity in your eyes. You were looking to get your own product one way or the other, were you?
Yeah, we wanted our own product. I mean, selling equipment for the large manufacturers, globally is fantastic, and it's it has paid our wages, and it is our primary business. But yeah, being able to manufacture our own machines and be in charge of our own destiny is kind of what we wanted to.
What I like about what I'm hearing on this, James, is the fact how you started the business. You listened to the customers of the previous 2D product you were selling. You listened, you identified the unmet need, and now you're equally you're looking at where people are looking for different outputs from the standard machines. You're seeing an opportunity to maybe build your own version of a 3D printer.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
What's the evidence you've got so far? What's the evidence you've got, and what's happening around this prototype, or this new customized 3D printer?
So we have a couple of customers who have already committed they will buy one if we can make it. So that's a kind of an incentive for us to try and have it produced. At the moment, we're still at the prototype stage, so we are midway through building it. We have it designed virtually in a 3D CAD package and tested, and now we're putting it together and speccing different components. So it's we're kind of midway through the process of building the prototype.
Do you mind sharing with us what's the key differential it offers, or what's different about this than what's out there?
So we're trying to make it a large format with performance polymers, like the high temperature Peak or Ultim, but in a large format bed, so big, 3/4 of a meter by 3/4 of a meter. So they can make big parts.
So you've identified a market with key customers. They're already in a pilot with you, and you're working through the technical uncertainties that's involved to come up with a solution that will work for them.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Yeah. And will this have major impact for them? Will this save them a lot of money if you come up with the right solution?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it will enable them to produce parts differently, maybe quicker.
Larger parts as well?
Larger parts, yeah. So they won't have to make assemblies any longer and, figure out how they're going to assemble multiple parts. So this, it will help save them money. Brilliant.
I think it's time we showed people your video of your company and what you actually do. Okay, let's see the video from James.
Keep going and keep plugging at it, and if you truly believe it's going to work out, you can kind of be in charge of your own destiny. My name is James Wall, and I'm the Managing Director at 3D Technology. So at 3D Technology, we do a number of different things. So we sell 3D printers. I was working in a company where I was interfacing with lots of medical device companies and machine houses, and realised that there was a need for 3D printing and nobody serving that market. The opportunities are vast, from prototyping to end-use parts, production, and so on. So before I even started the company, I met with Leo in Galway, and they provided me with a roadmap of what I need to do in order to get the different grants. So So in 2020 we received an Agile Innovation R&D grant to allow us to build a custom machine. See if we can manufacture our own machines, then we're in charge of our own costs when it comes to the equipment, and it gives us a lot more scope to export, and that's really what we want to end up doing. If we were to take on building our own printer without this grant, we'd have to tie up resources, Johannes' time, my time. It's not successful. It's a big risk for a company to put all that in. They co-fund all of the time and effort that's put in the software, any machinery we need. In order to get the grant, we had to put a lot of time with the assistance of Enterprise Ireland in putting together a project plan, a business plan, a market analysis, and let's really think about, well, you know, is this something that will work?
I'm Johannes Werner. I'm the lead engineer at 3D Technology. This Agile grant plays a critical role in making this development. If you're developing a project, you have to be resilient, committed, and prepared for setbacks.
When I first started out with the first 3D printer manufacturer that I took on as their partner in Ireland, we'd take out a very hefty loan, and there was definitely times it was just me in the company and this huge loan with equipment trying to resell it, and there was definitely a few times where I was thinking that it wasn't going to actually work. So I would encourage anyone involved in their own business at the beginning of that journey to link in with the local enterprise office, and I mean they're open and willing to take in new businesses and give good advice at each step of the process.
Okay, James, that was a great video, and it really gives you an idea of the technology involved. And as you were telling us about, you're going to be doing something large. This is going to be a large 3D print, a lot more engineering, so a lot more technically challenging as well. You've got a number of customers. Why do you need funding? Is it not all self-funding?
No, not really. We needed the fund in order to, well, as Brendan mentioned, to de-risk the project, because we can't be certain that, you know, it will work. We're midway through the process now, and we feel it will work, but it's a big challenge to take on if you're going to take all the risk as an SME. So having Enterprise Ireland and local enterprise office help with the Agile Innovation Fund to co-fund it makes a big difference.
And tell me a little bit more, because in essence, very different from Brendan. Brendan had a business up and running. You're very much more in that startup phase. Where did you find the time? Because I know running a business, you're wearing multiple hats. You're selling, you're managing the business, you're managing HR, you're trying to get jobs out the door. How easy was it, and where did you find the time to do the Agile funding application?
Yeah, so we went to Breda from the local enterprise office in Galway, invited us to an Agile Innovation Grant Open Day, which was held in a local hotel. She was aware of the project that we were thinking about and said this would be a great fit, and we went along, and yeah, we established that the application process wasn't going to be difficult. A lot of the information required we already had. It was just putting it together and uploading it onto the Agile Innovation web portal for the application. So it wasn't the most difficult application at all.
Okay, and again, I've got to drill in a little bit about the match funding. Did you use the Agile to get match funding, or is that something that happened internally?
No, we did it internally. So yeah, okay. So we were going to, like Brendan, we were going to do this project one way or another. And when the local enterprise office pointed out the Agile Innovation Fund to us, that kind of scaled up how quickly we could do it and put a bit of urgency on getting it started.
And did you? What was the timeline for you in doing the application to actually then get an approval on the funding?
Yeah, I think it took us maybe 2 months to put the information together and have it uploaded. Yep. And we gave it to Leo, and I think maybe 6 weeks later we were approved, and the approval dates back. So we had told Leo that we were going to start the project, but the approval dates back to the day you start the application, not when it's approved, which is...
That's interesting. That's a good insight to get as well from that point of view. And on your business model, I have to ask you this, because this is part of the next steps. How are you going to exploit this? How are you going to commercialize this? Is it for an export market, or can you sell back through your initial partnership that you've already got on your other printers? Can they grow the market for you? What's your thinking, or have you thought that far ahead yet?
Yeah, we'd like to export it. That's where we'd like to go. I mean, we can start with we have lots of customers that have bases in other countries. We can start through that route, but exporting is where we'd like to go.
Okay, and again, Brendan, I'm going to pull you back into the conversation as well from the point of view of just any comments you would like to share, or what did you think of James's approach and his product? Maybe he could build some parts for you.
Very probably. It's a very similar story in many respects. I mean, it shows the challenges for the idea, but also to reach out to the likes of the Leo, and the support systems are there. And also, you know, they spotted the need and identified that, and had good conversations with customers in order to develop the product. So it's a very similar story in many respects, just completely different industries, but the basics are there.
Yeah, okay. And I'd like to call Gillian back in at this point and just find out from Gillian is, you know, what other experiences are you coming across from other companies or other startups, these are existing businesses who are approaching you and asking you about the Agile Fund. What are you coming across? What is their experiences, and what are their challenges that they're trying to address with the funding?
I suppose the biggest challenge, Sean, is that a lot of local enterprise office clients, and indeed Enterprise Ireland clients, they fear the prospect of undertaking R&D. But in actual fact, they do R&D every day if they have an innovative or unique idea. So R&D, it's not just for the big multinationals, and many businesses have successfully done R&D, and several in the area in Galway as well, you know. So even up to 20% of companies that have received funding from the local enterprise office to date are likely candidates for R&D. So, I mean, I really would urge people, if they're interested and if they want to find out more about the fund, to contact the Leo. And the Leo staff will guide you through the process and appoint suitable mentors to assist with the application if you require it, and help with the drawdown paperwork as well. So that service is there, and it's on your doorstep. So just really do reach out to your local enterprise office.
I think that's key, that there is support. So it's not just the application, but you'll actually walk them through the application, and you'll actually advise them on what they need and what maybe more evidence they actually need to go out and gather around their particular application as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing I must say, and what excited me about today, was the scale of the funding that's in the Agile Fund for a small business is quite significant. It's more than I expected, and that's what really, it means you can actually do a lot of stuff with this. And I don't know, James or Brendan, if you agree with that, but it is this significant, 100%. Is the scale of the funding means you get a lot done over a period of time that will actually move the business on from that point of view. Yep. And anything you want to add to that, Brendan or James, on that, in sense of, did you draw down the full amount?
No, so we're midway through it, so we've only made one drawdown so far, but I mean, we may not draw the full amount, but we'll definitely try to get as close to the allocated amount as possible. Yeah, and like you mentioned, we had a really good mentor from Enterprise Ireland help us with the application as well. I think it was Paddy Byrne.
Okay.
So Paddy was really helpful in multiple Zoom calls to help us get that information together and to point us in a direction of where there was gaps in our application, what we had to look into.
Yeah. And I think that's also very important, and I must say, about bringing in external people to kind of give you that third-party view. And as you say, that particular consultant, at least he now knows your business. He now knows what you're doing. And Gillian, can James go back and look for more funding out of that Agile Fund, or does he move on to a different fund, taking that he hasn't pulled down his full potential amount that he could have?
Well, yeah, I suppose what we take a look at really is just that we potentially assist him to draw down the full amount if he can at all. But if he needs to go in with a separate piece of R&D, if he's a new product in mind, there's something we can work with him on in relation to that. There also is a bigger R&D fund than Agile in the system in Enterprise Ireland as well. That, you know, if he's walking towards exporting, he's going to get his jobs over 10 people, and, you know, that his turnover is quite significant. If he comes into the Enterprise Ireland camp, that there is an R&D offer there that's actually substantially more than the 300,000 that's available through Agile. So that's just something else to consider too.
Interesting, because that gives you a roadmap and a pipeline in the sense of a route to follow, so you can get more funding. And as you say, exports, employment over 10, and any other criteria? No other criteria. That's really it. Is there the two, exports and over 10 employees?
Well, I suppose for R&D Agile, it's more around being in a company that's already trading, and that you're EBITDA positive, and you're new to R&D, and you're operating in short product life cycles, and you're undertaking a relatively short project. So that's really what the R&D Agile Fund is for, and that's the criteria around it.
That you want to upscale as well, or to improve the efficiencies on. Did I pick that up correctly, Gillian?
Apologies, I just lost you there, Sean.
No, I was just saying, can you apply this? I thought you said originally that you also can apply it to a process, an existing manufacturing production process that you want to upscale or improve the efficiency or bring in a new technology.
Absolutely. So it's for a new product or a new service, but if you're significantly upscaling process as well within the company and you need assistance around that, this is really the fund for you too, as an existing business.
One thing can I ask both of you? Intellectual property, is that part of your use of this fund, or is that something you plan to maybe capture at some stage before you're formally putting things on the marketplace?
For us, probably not.
Okay.
No, I think at this stage, because the concepts are out there already, so we're just taking something and making it a lot smaller, compact. So we don't see the IP aspect of it.
Okay.
Yeah, we
James?
have an aspect of IP covered in this fund that we haven't used yet, but for some consultants to help us, protect or register or design or whatever they feel is the best route for us to go.
Yeah, interesting, because I think that was something I hadn't picked up before, Gillian, and that really is very beneficial when you can, to protect what you're putting on the marketplace, because it does actually delay other people's doing a direct copy of what you've done as well in the marketplace from that point of view. Caroline, any comments coming in or any questions coming in? I'm just going to check here in case we've, from you out there, has this sparked anything for you? Is there any questions you want to probe and ask around either James or Brendan or Gillian or myself based on what you've heard so far? So please send them in because now I've got the panel here. They're all waiting, they're all listening, and it's a great time to ask or just send in those questions.
Okay, so, Sean. Yes, we have some questions coming in this morning. Thanks everybody who's sending those through to us. Question to both of you, James and Brendan. How quickly has the grant moved you on with the business versus you self-funding your products?
Brendan, we'll go with you first.
Very quickly, because when we got the grant approval, we set ourselves a very short timeline of building a prototype and getting to market to go to an exhibition. In fact, that was our target. So within 9 months of getting approval, we had built a prototype and gone to an exhibition in Germany. So we wouldn't have done it in that time frame at all if we hadn't got the additional funding. So for us, it was a very fast process. And so it's allowed us to quickly diversify the business.
So it might have taken you maybe 18 months, maybe twice the time,
I think even longer if we were doing it completely by ourselves out of our own funding. It probably would have taken 2 to 3 years. So
2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
yeah.
And that's potential lost sales in the market.
Absolutely. I think, as you know, I was just thinking there, time stands still for no man. So when you have the idea and the concept and you've proven the idea and the concept, you want to move as fast as you can to get into the market, because as sure as you're thinking about the idea, there probably are others thinking of the idea as well. So when you've got everything lined up, I think then time and speed is on your side, so you move as quickly as you can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good indication of the measurement of the benefit of the funding. Like 2 to 3 years is huge. And that you can quantify that in sales lost if you weren't in that marketplace. And as you say, then a competitive advantage leapfrogs over your competitors. So you've got the agility to do it faster than some of the big players. Okay, interesting. James?
Yeah, similarly, if we were to do it without the fund, I think we would have taken a lot longer to make the decision to do the first step to get started. So once the fund was approved, or we were getting indications from Enterprise Ireland that it was going to be approved, we were happy to get started immediately. I think that if we had to do it all by ourselves, I would have been slower to make a decision to start spending money on expensive testing softwares and equipment and so on. I mean, because I'd be worried about the risk associated with spending all of that money and not knowing what return we're going to get.
And yours is a very technical, there would have been a lot of technical uncertainty and technical risks. Did you have to buy in external expertise to solve that, or was that just a matter of prototyping and testing in-house?
Just a matter of prototyping and testing in-house. We've some very good engineers in-house, and yeah, they've built some other smaller machines within 3D technology to help us with processes that we have in-house that we've just built ourselves. But yeah, the expertise we have in-house at the moment.
And again, I'm going to drill in. How long? Give me a time. What's the difference? If you had to do this yourself, fund it through the business, give me a realistic timeline. How long would it have taken you?
I mean, I don't think we would have started during COVID. We would have waited till after COVID anyway. So yeah,
that's
it could have
2 years. Go on.
It could have delayed it 2 or 3 years. Yeah, and then other projects take priority. This goes on a back burner, and you lose momentum.
So we're up to 3 years?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So Agile funding saved you 3 years, and that's possibly going to be 3 years of earnings that you're going to get extra from the marketplace because you're going to be ahead of the market.
Yeah.
Okay, and how are you ensuring the competitors aren't catching up with you as well, or what's happening there? How do you kind of keep an eye on the marketplace from the point of view what competitors are doing?
Yeah, so as we already are partners to lots of other large equipment manufacturers, 3D printer manufacturers, we're kind of aware of what's happening in the market. And our printer is tailored towards our customers' needs. So we aren't seeing any major competitors to it at the moment.
Okay, excellent. Caroline, any more questions coming in?
Yeah, a few more questions. I have 2 here that I'm actually going to answer myself. So we have a question that asks, for a product that exists and is close to completion, is this suitable? I have a product, but it needs refinement and publicity. So what we would say to you is to contact your local enterprise office. Maybe if you've developed the product already, it might be too late, but whatever county you're in, find your local enterprise office as soon as possible and talk to them about it.
And Caroline, can I add to that? Refinement is a very open word, so I would call that you need to do another iteration of your prototype. So I think wording is important here, particularly if it's something new for the marketplace. I would call that an iteration of your prototype and then talk to the Leos, because it can mean a lot of things. Yeah.
Okay. We had a question about the timeline of working on the Agile application process. We generally give a guideline of about 4 to 6 months. And just to note, James, you mentioned, I think it was about 3.5 months that the process seemed to move for you. So from talking to your Leo to working with your business advisor, technical advisor, to being approved the grant, about 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
We have a question, again open to both Brendan and James. I'd like to hear a little bit more about your experience with your technical advisor.
Good one. Brendan, technical advisor.
Yeah, the technical advisor I found very helpful and very useful, because he was able to drill into what we were trying to do, had a good understanding of the industry and the competitive environment, so was able to challenge the thinking process that we were working on. And yeah, I found him very helpful and tuned in, for want of a better word, to what we were trying to achieve. So in many respects, the questions he was asking and all that, it sort of helped put more information to the business plan. So yeah, it was a very useful process, actually.
Okay. And is that a kind of a network that's now part of your network? Is he part of your network? I know he's in doing a specific job, but is that somebody you can contact if you are looking for expertise, or somebody that might link you into the expertise you're looking for?
We haven't sort of continued with it after that particular process, but I do feel that we could go back to him if we wanted to develop further ideas or concepts. Most definitely,
because
yes.
I'm a great believer in one thing I didn't do at the very beginning was build a very good network. I now have been working on that over the last 10 years, and it's hugely valuable, is building that network and also using that network, particularly in finding somebody who can do something that might be relevant from that point of view. Absolutely. James?
Yeah, likewise, we found the advisor really good. I mean, he had an excellent knowledge of our industry, and the questions he was asking was challenging, our thinking and our business plan. He also put us in touch with the different MET, like the Athlone Institute of Technology, to people there who would be able to help us with testing in the future, and kind of it gave us some of his network of people that would help as the project progressed. So we found him really good. We haven't spoken to him since either that process, but like that, I do feel that if we wanted to, it would be no problem to reach out.
Yeah, and that's a good one as well. So again, I think that's part of the network. And you just reminded me there on that Moo Call project where we put the device on the cow's tail. It sends a message to your phone saying, I'm going to have a calf. We used Athlone Institute as well. So Athlone Institute, for an innovation voucher, did the initial proof of concept. And literally we strapped a mobile phone with a little I would say actuator that you would have on your burglar alarm systems on your window, just for proof of concept that we could actually do it, and we could send the message to another mobile phone and wake up the farmer or a member of the family who could go out and just make sure everything was okay, and if they needed, call the vet, they did. And that fundamentally was the proof of concept behind the actual Moo Call, before we then considered the business model, and then how do we design a solution for manufacturability from that point of view. So that's a good one as well. Caroline, any more questions coming in?
One for you, James. In addition to having existing customers for your product, and as you'd mentioned, Sean, earlier, that James is in much more of a startup phase than, say, Brendan, how do you handle creating a new audience, new customers for your product, while parallel developing the product, everything that's going on with the business and moving along your timelines?
Yeah, so we have a reasonable customer base now after the last couple of years who have machines that we've supplied to them that are manufactured not by us but by the partners we have around the world. So I suppose we try and grow our base by telling these customers what we're up to. They're aware of it through things like this and our social marketing and so on. And we would engage them to see, is there anything that would they be interested in having a machine as a pilot, for instance, once it's built, the prototype, would they test it for us? They could have it on site for a while and use it and give us some feedback. So I suppose we're trying to use our current customer base to help us expand, because some customers might say, well, we don't have a need for that machine, but I do know another company and it would really fit for them. You should contact X,
Great.
That's actually an interesting point as well, is leveraging existing customers as well as your pilot customers, but in leveraging as part of the process is really a smart way of doing it. And were the customers you found, Brendan, were they existing customers, or the customers you're dealing with now new customers who were testing your product?
Yeah, there were new customers because we were literally building a new product for a new market, so we had no contact prior. So as I was saying earlier, what we did was when we were doing the prototype development, we set ourselves a target to go to a massive construction exhibition in Germany. So if you like, we sort of wanted to showcase ourselves there, and that attracted dealer networks and interested customers who were visiting as well. So they sort of caught, oh, this is a new brand, what's going on here? Okay. So it was completely brand new. We were looking for new customers in new markets as completely separate from our existing business.
Oh, I must delve a little bit more into that. So that was quite courageous, number one.
Totally,
expensive,
yeah.
And
yes.
But it allowed you to validate, to go out there and identify who the customers might be, and to validate, is this solution going to fit the problems they have?
Exactly.
That was really interesting.
Yeah, it was a tough call because it was a very expensive exhibition to go to, but we felt that as the Agile Fund was there, we were getting part of the risk was taken with the prototype development. We wanted to take the risk of going to the exhibition to showcase. It was the exhibition was only every 4 years, so we thought this is an excellent shop window. Yeah. So we'll have to wait 4 more years to get to another one. So we go as fast as we could, and we got a lot of attractive interest from dealer networks, from distribution across Europe, and a lot of customers, end users visiting the exhibition, asking the right sort of questions. So from that we had a book of inquiries that we could work off.
Wow.
For the next iteration of the product. And then what we did was we decided to do demonstration days. So we took our second generation product to the UK, for example, and we organised a week where we were demonstrating on site and contacting those people that visited at the exhibition and bringing them to the site to show them the machine in action. and that worked really well, and that led to sales in actual fact as well.
And that creates a lot of awareness of your brand.
Absolutely.
In these markets, yeah.
It created a lot of chatter because, you know, we weren't big into social media, but a lot of the customers were. So they were talking to each other via social media and sending, you know, videos and WhatsApp messages to different customers or different friends of theirs in different markets about this is what's going on, we're looking at this new product, what do you think? So it's worked really well for us.
So the next steps for you is really about scaling, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Really about scaling.
Yep.
That's interesting. That's really good. So again, this process has worked. It's reduced the risks. It's given you the funding in order to invest and, I suppose, manage a lot of the uncertainty, because it's full of uncertainty, to get to a level now where you've got confidence that the market is there. It's now scaling to deliver the right product to that market.
Absolutely. COVID has slowed us down because we couldn't get out to the market as much as we would have liked. So we are, I would say, behind schedule in terms of our sales and production. But that said, we're, you know, this year it's opened up a lot more, and we're getting the inquiry level increasing, and, you know, we're pushing on now with production. So yes, scaling is the biggest challenge now.
Okay, well, Caroline, back to you.
Yeah, Gillian, I have a plethora of questions for you. And a lot of them are asking a similar type of questions. So I suppose to summarise these questions, what would you see as the pitfalls in filling out the application form, putting together the ideas for a presentation to the business advisor like yourself to apply for the grant? Any tips? Where do people fall down in it? What to avoid?
I suppose the main pitfall, Caroline, would be that people, I suppose, shy away from coming into their local enterprise office. I think that engagement with your business advisor is absolutely crucial for filling out the application form. Because the business advisor would have gone through the process already with other companies, they're going to know the areas that, you know, that the committees would really look at and put up on the hopper as such and ask the pertinent questions about. So you really need to engage with your business advisor when you're filling it out. If you've any doubts whatsoever, the business advisor is going to get back to you anyway, because the application has to go into them. But I think remain very close to the business advisor when filling it out. I think just in relation to the expenditure costs, that can be a bit of a pitfall, that you're putting, I suppose, costs that are not pertinent to the project into the wrong areas, and that might need a bit of fleshing out as well. So it's really key that, you know, you sit down with your business advisor really, I suppose, early on, just to make sure what you need to fill out within the actual application form, and send a draft into them, you know, on a regular basis, even before you send in the final draft, so you can talk through the actual process.
Okay, perfect. And that falls within that timeline of 4 to 6 months. I mean, there's obviously you or whoever is in the Leo is going to be, you know, constantly on the ball, keeping an eye out for anything that comes in, working actively on the application, and just keeping it moving forward.
Absolutely. And I mean, one thing I suppose to keep in mind is we can't fund anything retrospectively. So this needs to be a project that you're working on currently, and, you know, expenditure that's going to happen in the next few months, and from the date that you submit the actual application. So we can't fund something that went on 12 months ago within a business. Yeah. So keep that in mind as well.
Okay.
On top of that, so I'm putting myself back when I started my own company. So say I'd set up my company, my limited company, and I was 3 years in operation, not very profitable, which was the reality at the time. Is there any criteria like that we need to be aware of? Do you need to be a minimum amount of time in business, legal entity, obviously, but, you know, do you have to have massive profits, or is it okay if you're ticking over in the business?
Really, but you need to be evidence positive.
But you have an evidence-based need identified.
Yeah, you need to be evidence positive to apply for R&D Agile. So and you need to be an established business. So you need to be making sales and turnover with an existing product. So this, I suppose, offer is really for somebody that's looking to diverting into the marketplace, looking at a new product and a new product line or service line for what they're trying to do, or significant improvement within their process. So if you're not at that point, I would suggest go back to your local enterprise office and discuss what offer would be most advantageous to you. Not everybody is for R&D Agile. So, there might be other offers that might be, I suppose, more prevalent to your business and your business needs. So I think, yeah, you have to be established. You have to have product sales, turnover. You're looking to diversify into a new market, into a new product, and you need to be able to positive for this particular offer.
Okay, understand that. Caroline, any more questions for our guests?
Yeah, Gillian, if you're an Irish company, a number of years old, and you're planning to work and fund a medtech innovation project with an EU research institute, would this fit within the Agile funding application?
And that's a very specific question, so we might need to take that offline just to see what that would particularly look like. So, as in they're funding the multinational, or they're a subsidiary of the multinational, or how?
Possibly be getting funding through the research institute as a percentage of their overall product technology development.
Okay, so that, I mean, for something like that, that's probably a different type of offer. Look, there's a number of tech transfer offices across the country that are based in the institutes of technology and the technological universities. An innovation voucher might be one of those. Innovation partnership. They do run R&D Agile funding as well, and the more robust R&D fund that Enterprise Ireland, I suppose, would offer to clients. So if they're already engaged with an institute of technology for the particular offer, I'd say remain with them and use your tech transfer officer and that office to go through that instead of going to the Leo. So if you're already engaged with a tech transfer officer, keep going down that pathway.
Okay, thanks for that.
More questions?
I think I've one last question, and this is to everybody in the panel. In terms of applying for the Agile grant, was there any point for any of you, James, Brendan or Gillian, that you saw something becoming unstuck in terms of maybe EPITA or project innovation or something like that, and needed to take a few steps back? If you have, what did you do?
James, I was going to start with you because highly technical, and you had an expert team. Obviously, there's a lot of trust in them, but a lot of uncertainty, I'm certain. And you even mentioned that you weren't certain of the outcome as well, or the potential. Could you actually deliver the outcomes these potential customers were looking for? So maybe it's a good place to start. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we were putting together our business plan, there were certain technical aspects that Paddy had pointed to ask us. Where are we on this? Is this something that is achievable? Is this happening in the market already? So there was. Yeah, it took us it was a few times throughout the process where we had to reanalyze what added value are we going to put in this machine, because we can't put everything into it. So let's pick a few aspects that we know are what our customers want, rather than putting everything in, because our engineers had ideas for all sorts of different add-ons that we thought, okay, we'll put it all in. And I think going through the process took out some of maybe the noise we didn't need in the machine to focus on a number of key benefits.
And obviously that means your price and positioning is going to be more competitive for your customers as well. So they're getting just what they need rather than everything bundled into one product.
Yeah, and for us then in the process, there's less items less problems to trash out throughout the process. Yeah.
And then in your application, did you break down the high risks, the medium risks, the low risks? Did you break it down that way so you're able to say these are the high risks and here's our plan of action of how we might go over, little sprints of how we will deal with these risks? Did you go into that detail? Because I'm sure that's what happened on the ground. That's the reality.
Yeah. A lot of that was put in. There was SWOT analysis and outlining the different risks associated with the project and how we would potentially overcome them. Yeah. Yep. That was included in the application.
But you weren't certain of the outcome.
No.
Okay. Well, that's why the funding's there, to actually help you mitigate those risks. Yeah. Brendan.
I suppose what happened to us was initially we had our contacts with EI, and we were initially an EI client, and then I think with the change of DA we dropped out of EI because we didn't have quite the numbers of employees. But So there was a sort of a heart-stopping moment. We thought, oh my God, we're going for this and we're out of the picture now. But we made contact with the local Leo, and Gillian was there and Breda Fox, and they said, oh no, don't panic. We have Agile available, and we can still support you. And they were extremely helpful, and but it was a heart-stopping moment where we thought, oh no, here we go.
The criteria.
Yes. Yeah. So this was kind of, we're going to have to do this on our own and over a much longer period of time. But but they quickly turned things around for us and made it happen. So. Yeah.
That's interesting. And can I just delve on the technology from your point of view? Miniaturization can have its own challenges. And what was the biggest technical challenge within that you were not certain you might be able to deliver on? Or were you reasonably confident all along, technically, this is not a problem?
No, I mean, the miniaturization has its challenges, and it's whether we could actually get a reasonable level of production that a customer would want, that would justify spending X amount of money on buying this particular product, and also fitting the criteria of getting it to site from site within the transport arrangements that customers are limited to as well. So no, nothing was certain, and on top of that, we were sort of trying to decide, how do we power this particular unit? Do we go diesel hydraulic, which is the traditional thing in the marketplace, versus hybrid technology, which was becoming more evident that this was the way the market was going. So we had a lot of challenges, if you like, technically. In the end, we decided to go down the hybrid route, and that's proven a very attractive proposition for the size of the product that we now have as well.
And your product's actually good for the environment as well, because it means we're recycling a lot more than going into landfill.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there is only a finite limit to our resources on the planet, and it seems crazy that the concrete and bricks and blocks is being dumped when that could be crushed and recycled and reused on building sites. So yeah, it's a super environmental product, yes.
Okay. Gillian, any comments on that last question?
Yeah, I suppose, look, the R&D Agile Fund is as the guys mentioned, it's there to de-risk projects that are, fledgling R&D projects. So there is amount of de-risk in it. However, what I would say is keep very close to the tech advisor that you're assigned for the actual project once it's deemed eligible, because as the guys mentioned there as well, the tech assessor will give you really good tips and tricks and just even tools that, to add on to the product, or will give you good information of what's already out there on the marketplace. And they will have a global, vision of what's out there on the marketplace as well, not just in Ireland, but actually what's out there globally. And how you can distinguish your product and make it innovative and unique to both the Irish marketplace and overseas. So I would really say, whatever advice they give you, I would follow it, because they're going to be pitching as well on your behalf to Enterprise Ireland for the actual application. So they will need some questions answered, etc. So really keep close to them.
Okay, Caroline, any last questions, and then we'll go into our kind of final stages?
I think we're...
That's it. And so really, what it kind of comes back to for me, and it comes back, what is really interesting, all of this is starting to align and make a lot of sense from the point of view of what we've been doing in Ireland, bearing the flag and flying the flag around innovation and leading on a global stage around defining the terms around innovation, this ISO 56002 as a practical guide. And again, hearing that, actually the team here, you've been applying it, you've been doing it, and we may have been doing it ad hoc, but you've been doing it. You've been going out there, and based on your own business intuition, you're identifying a need that's not currently met. And I think, Brendan, yours was that emerging need or trend, and maybe a regulation around recycling on sites has sparked that opportunity for you. You've seen that as an opportunity. You built the evidence, which exactly what this funding is looking for, that evidence, and they bring in external people to advise you, as well as consultant to advise you to make sure, because we all have a danger of falling in love with our own ideas. I've done it. And you need that third party to address that. So it gives me a lot of confidence in the process as well. And very much same with you, James, as well, is, again, totally different industry sector, something brand new, something I know little about, except I know the end products that come out of 3D printing. But you're looking at, I do know a little bit about these large-scale 3D printed parts, which are going to be massive benefits for your customers. It's going to save them potentially an awful lot on tooling, on lead times, on them getting their products to market. So when you come up with a solution, I can see this huge global export opportunity as well. But you spotted it. You did it intuitively. And that's what I like as well. And what we're saying is there is a process out there. The process aligns, I think, very well with the Agile funding. And Caroline kind of been capturing those kind of your questions as well. So I think there's a few things you need to do. We'll wrap up in a few minutes. But I want to come back. James, one bit of advice you give to somebody looking for Agile funding, what would it be? What would be the one bit of advice you would give to anybody who might be resource shy, lack of finance?
I mean, I think the most important thing you can do is engage with your local enterprise office.
Okay.
I mean, without them, we wouldn't have gotten any of the funding that we currently have, including Agile and others. So I think they're your first port of call.
So knock at the door.
Absolutely, yeah. And they're very receptive and very helpful.
Yeah, that's great. And what I did like is the fact it's not just, here, do the application. They support you in doing the application. And the technical assessment, that is a support. So it's not totally down to you. They come and hands-on help you look at where you are and then help you get a successful application in.
Yeah, and help you put a business plan together, help you review your forecasting. I mean, yeah, they help with all aspects of that.
That's brilliant. Okay. Brendan, what one bit of advice would you give somebody?
Exactly the same as James. I think reach out to the local enterprise office. It's surprising how helpful and knowledgeable they are and how many contacts they have as well within the industry. So, even if it's an early stage idea, reaching out and asking those sorts of questions, you're surprised in the support that they'll give you and help you build on your idea and concept. They're not going to turn you away. They're actually very keen to see businesses grow. So the support level is huge. It's there, and I would definitely agree with James. Ask the questions.
And that's a good point as well, because maybe if the fit isn't right for the Agile funding, there is another funding route that's open to you as well. And also the fact that both of you will need substantially more funding into the future. And what I love about this is the one thing I do know that the Irish government are looking for is more exports. That's what we need in Ireland to kind of sustain everything we've got at the moment. So you're both going in the right place. And hopefully any of you out there listening who have that spark of an idea and also have a certain amount of evidence behind that need can actually see what is the next steps for you. And the one thing, and I knew it myself as an SME, the one thing I was lacking all the time was funding resources to be able to do things that maybe would take me 2 or 3 years otherwise to do. And I think we've heard that validated very clearly today. It's not that you're not going to do it, but it will save you that 3 years, which is lost sales in the marketplace. And also, it just speeds up your ability to scale the business and grow the business from that point of view as well, which is quite a key one as well. And never been a more dynamic time. What can I say? The pandemic, we're now into digitization. We are absolutely into digitization. We also have a whole stock of new consumers and customers, millennials. I hate to use the word now, but it's more of a mindset. But it's really people who are expecting different experiences. They want things to work. They look on their smartphone. They maybe want not just a physical product, they'll want an app. They'll want something that will actually inform them or give them more data or more information. So the experiences and the outcomes people are looking for have significantly changed as well. Caroline, I know you want to thank a few people as well as part of this program also, and maybe you want to tell them about where they can see this again, or if they want to email any questions, etc. So do you want to come into shot here so we can, grab a seat there.
Thanks a million, John. Hello again, everybody. I am sure, like myself, you've had really good learnings from this morning's session. Thanks a million for sending through the questions, all were extremely insightful. So there has been a lot of, obviously, talk about contacting the Leo, your local Leo in your local county, who you can talk to about the Agile grant. So if you don't already have contact for your local Leo, if you go onto the National Leo website, which is www.localenterprise.ie, and you will be able to find your local enterprise office there on the website. So I guess just to, I suppose, maybe not harbour, just go back on the point about the Agile grant really being a de-risking mechanism for developing the new product or process. You know, as Gillian had mentioned earlier on, you know, it covers staff costs, overheads, consultant costs, materials for products, certification, patent costs, clinical trials, and so on. So please keep all that in mind. Remember also that there's tax benefits attached to R&D, but keeping in mind the fund really is there to support you and de-risk the overheads and resources of your time and your staff towards the development of the new product. Have a look also at your local websites, your local Leo websites, for other local events that are taking place this week, right up until Friday evening, throughout the country. And check out the rest of the spotlight events which are taking place for the rest of the week. For Galway county and city viewers, you can find us on localenterprise.ie/Galway. And we have a plethora of events and training happening this week, and certainly for the next few months coming up. So I just want to say a big thanks to Sean for being here, and Brendan and James, all for giving us your time, your insights, your expertise. Gillian, thanks a million for tuning in, and it's great to have you here today and talk through your experience of working with Brendan and with other, I suppose, funds that you're aware of as well that can feed into the whole conversation. Big thanks to Santa Light, Rory, and Finbar and Paul, who are up there behind all the lights and the screens. Thanks a million for keeping us on track today. Moose Productions, Joseph and Sean, who created those fantastic videos of CrushTech and 3D technologies. And I hope that you'll be able to go back. This whole session has been recorded, so you can actually go back and have a look at those videos again. Karen in White Light Productions, thanks for all your support. And to all the team in Leo Galway. And last but not least, Breda Fox, a big thanks to you, our backbone, and you're continuously pushing us and our clients onwards and upwards. And thank you for that. So I'll hand back over to you, Sean.
Yeah, no, I think that sums it up very well. All I was going to do was wrap up was thank you for your time listening in today as well. And I must say, I'm blown out of the water with the guys here from what they've actually done. And Gillian, it was really good to get those insights from that point of view as well. So maybe if I could, on your behalf, give them a round of applause. I think that would be a good way to end it up. So well done, guys. So thank you. Take care.
Keep going and keep plugging at it, and if you truly believe it's going to work out, you can kind of be in charge of your own destiny. My name is James Wall, and I'm the Managing Director at 3D Technology. So at 3D Technology, we do a number of different things. So we sell 3D printers. I was working in a company where I was interfacing with lots of medical device companies and machine houses, and realised that there was a need for 3D printing and nobody serving that market. The opportunities are vast, from prototyping to end-use parts, production, and so on. So before I even started the company, I met with Leo in Galway, and they provided me with a roadmap of what I need to do in order to get the different grants. So in 2020 we received an Agile Innovation R&D grant to allow us to build a custom machine. See if we can manufacture our own machines, then we're in charge of our own costs when it comes to the equipment, and it gives us a lot more scope to export, and that's really what we want to end up doing. If we were to take on building our own printer without this grant, we'd have to tie up resources, Johannes' time, my time. It's not successful. It's a big risk for a company to put all that in. They co-fund all of the time and effort that's put in the software, any machinery we need. In order to get the grant, we had to put a lot of time with the assistance of Enterprise Ireland in putting together a project plan, a business plan, a market analysis, and then really think about, well, is this something that will work?
I'm Johannes Werner. I'm the lead engineer at 3D Technology. This Agile grant plays a critical role in making this development. If you're developing a project, you have to be resilient, committed, and prepared for setbacks.
When I first started out with the first 3D printer manufacturer that I took on as their partner in Ireland, we'd take out a very hefty loan, and there was definitely times it was just me in the company and this huge loan with equipment trying to resell it, and there was definitely a few times where I was thinking that it wasn't going to actually work. So I would encourage anyone involved in their own business at the beginning of that journey to link in with the local enterprise office, and I mean they're open and willing to take in new businesses and give good advice at each step of the process.
My name is Brendan McGrath. I'm the Managing Director of Crush Tech. Crush Tech as a business is a company designing and developing crushing, screening, recycling equipment for the construction and demolition waste recycling market. A number of years ago I was working in the UK in the crushing and screening area and construction equipment businesses, and in the last few years we were looking at something else to diversify and grow into, and we can see that at a European level there's a huge push to recycle and reuse materials. Consequently, we could see a gap in the market for compact crushing and recycling equipment. The legacy products at the moment would be quite large, high production machinery, and the issue in a lot of city sites is that access is an issue, the size of the machinery is an issue, and also the cost of the machinery to go in and do a small job. It's just not viable. So our concept was to try and develop machinery that's smaller, compact, yet decent production levels so that you could get it into site. That's where we feel we can come into that sector of the market where we can go on site, do a small job, 3, 4, 5 days, and it's easy got in, easy got out, and easy to do the job. We have now sold some units in the UK and further into Eastern Europe. All across Europe we see as our growth potential market, and we are at a stage now where we are building and shipping, and we're trying to build a distribution network across Europe to sell and service the product as well. The huge benefit of what we're trying to do is to prevent valuable materials, construction, demolition, waste material, your bricks, your blocks, your concrete, from going to landfill. So when buildings are demolished, it seems crazy not to be able to recycle and reuse this material, where now they can crush this material cost effectively as well on site and reuse that material for sub-base and roads and things like that. The Agile Innovation Grant from the local enterprise office was a huge benefit for us to help us over the huge funding that was needed to develop a big product like this. The Leo was very supportive in terms of pushing it through for us, to give us that impetus to go ahead and drive on with the development. It was a very fast, efficient and easy process in actual fact, because they had a very quick understanding of where we were coming from, what we were trying to do. The sort of mindset you need for developing a new product or a new niche in a market is one where you've got to have a good understanding of your own market. So you have to have a lot of strength in your own belief and your own character in order to drive it through. Being mindful of the pitfalls with it as well, but there's always an element of risk in any development of new product. But if you have that inner believing in yourself, and then it takes that sort of inner strength to drive on and push on with it and take the chance.